I never thought comparing my daughter to her cousin would end our relationship. For years, I kept telling Ariel how Eliza was better than her. At her high school graduation, I barely noticed her valedictorian speech because I was too busy pointing out how Eliza got more awards last year. When she got into a great computer science program, I reminded her that Eliza was at Columbia Law. The day she called about her big promotion to lead developer, I laughed and said, "That's nice, but it's not exactly partner track at Wellington and Ross, is it?" I kept pushing her to aim higher, never realizing I was pushing her away. Now she won't answer my texts even though she lives just 20 minutes from me. I thought I was motivating her, but I was destroying her. I never thought I'd be the mother whose daughter stops speaking to her. Growing up, my own mother constantly compared me to my sister, and I swore I'd never do the same to my children. Yet here I am, standing in the crowded auditorium of Westridge High School, watching my daughter Ariel walk toward the podium to deliver her valedictorian speech. I should feel nothing but pride in this moment. Instead, I hear myself whisper to my husband Nikhil, "Eliza gave her valedictorian speech last year and received a standing ovation. Let's see if Ariel can manage the same." Nikhil shifts uncomfortably beside me but says nothing. He never contradicts me in public, one of the unspoken rules of our marriage. I watch Ariel adjust the microphone, her hands steady despite the crowd. She begins speaking about future possibilities and the responsibility that comes with privilege. Her delivery is confident, her words well chosen. I find myself mentally comparing her points to the speech Eliza gave last year. My niece had quoted more philosophers. Her metaphors were more elegant, her delivery more polished. When Ariel finishes, the audience erupts in enthusiastic applause. I clap along, nodding slightly. "Good," I murmur as she rejoins us after the ceremony, "but not quite as inspiring as Eliza's, was it?" I see something flicker across Ariel's face, her smile faltering for just a moment before she recovers. Still, she hugs me and accepts congratulations from her father, who at least has the good sense to express unqualified pride. "We're getting dinner at Castellano's to celebrate," I tell her. "Eliza might join us if her internship meeting finishes early." "Actually," Ariel says, "my friends wanted to celebrate tonight. I was hoping to join them." I feel a flash of irritation. "Family comes first, Ariel. Your cousin is making time in her busy schedule to celebrate with you. I don't mention that Eliza hasn't actually confirmed she's coming. Your friends can wait until tomorrow." Ariel hesitates, then nods. "Okay, I'll tell them." She pulls out her phone and steps away to make the call. I notice her shoulders slump slightly. "Valencia," Nikhil says quietly, "perhaps we should let her celebrate with her friends tonight. It is her graduation. And miss an opportunity for her to connect with Eliza. You know how valuable those connections will be when she starts college." I adjust my jade pendant, a nervous habit. "Besides, I've already made the reservation." Nikhil sighs but doesn't press the issue. He knows better than to challenge me once my mind is made up. The dinner is a disaster. Eliza arrives 40 minutes late, full of apologies about her meeting with the university pre-law advisor running long. I wave away her apology. These things happen when you're on a demanding career track. The implication hangs in the air as I turn to Ariel. "Have you decided on a major yet?" Ariel takes a sip of water before answering. "I'm thinking computer science." I can't quite hide my disappointment. "Computer science? I thought you were considering pre-law or at least business." "Technology is the future, Mom. There are amazing opportunities in software development and artificial intelligence." "Playing with computers," I say with a slight laugh. "Well, I suppose someone has to do it, though Eliza just got accepted to Columbia Law. Didn't you, dear?" Eliza looks uncomfortable. "It's a great school, but computer science is incredibly competitive too." "Which programs are you looking at, Ariel?" Before Ariel can answer, I jump in. "She's been accepted at State, which has a decent program, I'm told. Not Ivy League, of course, but then not everyone can handle that level of rigor." "I also got into Carnegie Mellon," Ariel says quietly. "Their computer science program is ranked in the top 5 nationally. This is the first I'm hearing of this." "When did that happen?" "The letter came last week. I told Dad." I look at Nikhil, who has the grace to appear slightly embarrassed. "I meant to tell you," he says. It slipped my mind with all the graduation preparations. I feel a wave of conflicting emotions. Pride that my daughter got into such a prestigious program, irritation that I wasn't immediately informed, and something else, something I don't want to examine too closely. Well, I say finally, that's certainly good news, though still not quite Columbia. Eliza jumps in quickly. Carnegie Mellon is incredible for computer science. Honestly, it's probably better than Columbia in that field. I give her a tight smile. Let's not exaggerate to spare feelings, Eliza. We all know where the real prestige lies. I signal for the waiter. Should we order dessert? The rest of the evening passes in strained conversation. Ariel says little, responding to questions with short answers. When we get home, she immediately goes to her room. I hear her on the phone, probably talking to those friends she wanted to see instead of us. You were hard on her tonight, Nikhil says as we prepare for bed. I was realistic, I reply. She needs to understand the competitive world she's entering. Not everyone gets a trophy in real life. She got into Carnegie Mellon Valencia. That's a remarkable achievement. And I acknowledge that. After comparing it unfavorably to Columbia, I remove my earrings with more force than necessary. I'm not going to apologize for having high standards for our daughter. Nikhil shakes his head. There's a difference between high standards and never being satisfied. She was valedictorian. She got into one of the best computer science programs in the country. What more do you want? I want her to reach her full potential, I snap. Not settle for less than she could achieve. Like you settled for me instead of the surgeon your parents wanted you to marry. His voice is quiet, but the words land like a slap. I stare at him, shocked that he would bring up something I confided decades ago. That was different, was it? He turns away, ending the conversation. The next 4 years establish a pattern. Ariel comes home for holidays and occasional weekends. Each visit follows the same script. I ask about her classes. She tells me about projects or professors she's excited about. I nod and mention how Eliza is thriving at Columbia Law. Family dinners become exercises in restraint, with Ariel speaking less and less, while I fill the silence with news of Eliza's accomplishments. Eliza's been selected for law review, I announce over Thanksgiving dinner during Ariel's senior year. Only the top 10% are chosen, you know. Ariel nods and continues eating her mashed potatoes. She's also clerking for Judge Ambrose next summer. That's practically unheard of for someone her age. That's great, Ariel says without looking up. Do you have any summer plans yet? I press. Now she does look up, a flash of something like defiance in her eyes. Actually, yes. I've been offered an internship at Quantum Vertex. Never heard of it, I say dismissively. It's a tech startup focused on applied artificial intelligence. They're doing groundbreaking work in healthcare applications. A startup, I repeat. Well, I suppose that could be interesting, though hardly as prestigious as a federal clerkship. It's exactly what I want to be doing, Ariel says firmly. I sigh. I just worry about job security, dear. These little tech companies come and go so quickly. Google was a startup once, Mom, and for every Google there are thousands of failures. Eliza's position with Judge Ambrose will open doors throughout her entire career. Ariel puts down her fork. May I be excused? I have some reading to finish before tomorrow. I wave my hand in dismissal, not bothering to hide my disappointment at her abrupt departure. Once she's gone, Nikhil fixes me with a look. What? I demand. You know what? He says quietly. You couldn't just be happy for her, could you? I'm trying to protect her from disappointment. The real world isn't kind to people who make impractical choices. No, he agrees. People are unkind enough without the world's help. I choose to ignore the implication. Ariel's visits become less frequent after she graduates and accepts a full-time position at Quantum Vertex. She texts occasionally with brief updates that I find frustratingly vague. When she does come home, our interactions follow the same script, with one addition. I now ask when she plans to apply to business school, suggesting it might help her transition to a real company once the startup inevitably fails. The company is doing very well, she tells me during a rare visit. We just secured another round of funding. That's nice, I reply, but these things are so volatile. Eliza just made junior partner at Wellington and Ross, the youngest in the firm's history. Ariel's expression hardens almost imperceptibly. I'm happy for her. You could have had opportunities like that if you'd chosen a different path. I'm very happy with the path I chose, Mom. For now, I say with a knowing smile. But playing with computers isn't exactly a career with longevity. She doesn't argue, but she leaves earlier than planned the next morning. Nikhil is furious with me in his quiet way. Do you even hear yourself when you talk to her? He asks after she's gone. I hear a mother who wants the best for her daughter. No, he says firmly. You hear what you want to hear. The rest of us hear a woman who can't recognize her daughter's success because it doesn't match her narrow definition of achievement. That's unfair, I protest, but something uncomfortable stirs in my chest. Months pass with minimal contact. Then one Tuesday evening, my phone rings with Ariel's name on the screen. I answer immediately, surprised by the call. Mom, her voice sounds excited. I have news. What is it, dear? I try to sound encouraging. I've been promoted to lead developer at Quantum Vertex. I'll be heading the entire healthcare AI division. I should say congratulations. I should tell her I'm proud. Instead, what comes out is, that's nice, but it's not exactly partner track at Wellington and Ross, is it? The silence that follows seems to stretch for eternity. I realize my mistake too late. I just want you to aim higher, I add quickly, like Eliza does. I have to go, Ariel says, her voice suddenly flat. Wait, I didn't mean, but the line is already dead. I stare at my phone, confused by the abrupt end to our conversation. I call Ariel back immediately, but the call goes straight to voicemail. I leave a message. Ariel, we got disconnected. Call me back. My tone is more demanding than I intend. She doesn't call back, not that evening, not the next day. I text her. We need to finish our conversation. No response. By the third day, irritation overtakes concern. I call again, leaving a more pointed message. This is childish behavior, Ariel. I was just being honest with you. Call me back. Still nothing. After a week, I text Nikhil during his hospital shift. Have you heard from Ariel? His response comes hours later. She's fine. Nothing more. When he comes home, I confront him. What do you mean she's fine? Has she spoken to you? He removes his tie with deliberate care. She texted me a few days ago. And you didn't tell me. I feel betrayed. She asked me not to mention it to you. She said she needs some space. Space from what? From me? Because I dared to suggest she could aim higher than some tech startup. Nikhil looks at me with tired eyes. Yes, Valencia, space from exactly that. That's ridiculous. I'm her mother. I have every right to want the best for her. Is that what you think you're doing? Wanting the best for her? Of course it is. What else would I be doing? Nikhil shakes his head. I'm too tired for this conversation. He walks away, leaving me standing alone in our immaculate living room, surrounded by carefully curated artwork that suddenly feels cold and impersonal. 2 weeks pass. Then 3, my texts grow increasingly frustrated. This silent treatment is immature. You're overreacting just like you always do. I didn't raise you to be this sensitive. Each one sent, each one unanswered. After nearly a month, I make a decision. If Ariel won't respond to calls or texts, I'll go to her. I don't tell Nikhil my plan, knowing he would advise against it. Instead, I wait until he's scheduled for surgery, then drive the 20 minutes to Ariel's apartment complex. The building is modern, with a security door requiring a key fob. I wait until someone exits, then catch the door before it closes. No one questions my presence as I make my way to the 3rd floor. Standing outside apartment 314, I smooth my skirt and adjust my jade pendant before knocking firmly. Long seconds pass. I knock again, louder. Finally, I hear movement inside. The door opens just a few inches, revealing Ariel's face. Her expression is guarded in a way I've never seen before. What are you doing here? She asks, making no move to invite me in. What am I doing here? I'm checking on my daughter, who suddenly stopped communicating with her mother for no reason. My voice rises slightly despite my effort to remain calm. It wasn't for no reason. Is this about our phone call? Because I said your promotion wasn't as prestigious as making partner at a law firm? That's hardly grounds for cutting off contact. Ariel's face hardens. It wasn't just that call. It's been years of this, Mom. Years of comparing me to Eliza. Years of dismissing everything I achieve because it doesn't fit your narrow definition of success. That's not fair. I've always supported you. No, she says quietly, you've always tolerated me. There's a difference. She makes no move to open the door wider. Are you going to invite me in? We can't have this conversation in the hallway. I don't think we need to have this conversation at all. I've said everything I need to say. Anger flares within me. So that's it. After everything I've done for you, you're just going to shut me out because I hurt your feelings. You've made it clear that nothing I do will ever be good enough. Her voice remains calm, which somehow makes it worse. My achievements will always be second-rate in your eyes. I'm just trying to motivate you, I protest, to push you to reach your full potential. I don't need that kind of motivation anymore. She starts to close the door. I put my hand out to stop it. Ariel, don't be ridiculous. I'm your mother. Yes, you are, but that doesn't give you the right to make me feel inferior for the rest of my life. She pushes the door firmly. Goodbye, Mom. The door closes in my face. I stand there stunned, my hand still raised. Did my daughter just dismiss me? After a moment of shocked silence, I knock again, harder this time. Ariel, open this door. No response. I knock until my knuckles hurt, calling her name with increasing volume. Finally, a door opens down the hall. A middle-aged man looks out at me with disapproval. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to keep it down or I'll call security. I stare at him, mortified. I am Valencia Kimura Patel, Executive Director of the Westridge Art Foundation. I do not get threatened with security. I adjust my blazer and straighten my spine. That won't be necessary, I was just leaving. The drive home is a blur. My mind replays Ariel's words on endless loop. You've made it clear that nothing I do will ever be good enough. How could she believe that? Haven't I always pushed her toward excellence? Isn't that what good mothers do? When Nikhil comes home that evening, he knows immediately something is wrong. What happened? I want to see Ariel today. His expression shifts from concern to wariness. And she refused to let me in, told me she didn't need my kind of motivation anymore, then she shut the door in my face. I can hear the indignation in my own voice. Nikhil sighs heavily. I told you she needed space. Space is one thing, cutting off your mother is another. Did you know she felt this way? That she thinks nothing she does is good enough for me? He sits down across from me. Of course I knew. What do you mean, of course? Valencia, you've been comparing her to Eliza since they were children. You've dismissed every achievement, every milestone because it wasn't what you would have chosen. Did you really think that wouldn't affect her? I was pushing her to excel, to reach her potential. No, he says firmly. You were punishing her for not being who you wanted her to be. His words sting like a physical blow. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you told Ariel you were proud of her without adding a but or a comparison to Eliza? I open my mouth to answer, then close it again. I can't remember. That's what I thought, Nikhil says, his voice gentler now. Our daughter is brilliant, Valencia. She's kind and determined and successful on her own terms. But you've never been able to see that because you're too busy measuring her against someone else's yardstick. I just want what's best for her. No, you want what you think is best for her. There's a difference. He stands up. I'm going to bed. I have early rounds tomorrow. I remain sitting in the living room long after he's gone upstairs. The house feels too large, too empty. When did this happen? When did I become the villain in my daughter's story? The months that follow establish a new normal. Ariel maintains contact with Nikhil but continues to ignore my calls and texts. I learned through him that she's been promoted again, that her company is flourishing, that she's moved to a new apartment. Each piece of information feels like salt in an open wound. Family gatherings become exercises in careful avoidance. When my sister asks about Ariel over Thanksgiving dinner, I give vague answers about her being too busy with work to join us. I don't mention that I wasn't invited to her company's holiday party, though Nikhil was. I don't say that my daughter has cut me out of her life as cleanly as excising a tumor. My sister, oblivious to the tension, continues to update me on Eliza's accomplishments. She's being considered for junior partner already, she tells me proudly. The youngest in the firm's history. How wonderful, I say automatically, though the words taste like ash. All I can think about is how many times I've used Eliza's success as a weapon against my own daughter. One evening, I discover by accident that Nikhil has been having lunch with Ariel every few weeks. I find a receipt from a restaurant near her office in his jacket pocket as I'm preparing clothes for dry cleaning. When I confront him, his expression is unapologetic. You've been seeing her behind my back. The betrayal stings doubly. Someone needed to maintain a connection, he says simply. And you didn't think to tell me, to invite me along. She specifically asked that I come alone. The words hit me like a physical blow. She's turning you against me. No, Valencia, you're doing that all on your own. He takes the receipt from my hand. Ariel is our daughter, not a chess piece in whatever game you're playing with your own insecurities. I won't cut her off just because you can't admit you were wrong. Wrong about what? About wanting her to succeed. Wrong about what success looks like. He walks away, leaving me clutching a handful of clothes that suddenly feel as empty as my justifications. The silence between us grows. Nikhil and I orbit each other in our spacious home, speaking only when necessary. He continues his weekly lunches with Ariel. I continue to send unanswered texts that grow increasingly desperate. I miss you. Please talk to me. I don't understand what I did wrong. After particularly difficult board meetings at the foundation, I find myself driving past Ariel's apartment building, slowing down to look up at her windows, wondering what her life looks like now. 3 years ago, I knew every detail of my daughter's life. Now she's a stranger to me, living just 20 minutes away. At Nikhil's persistent urging, I finally agree to see a therapist. I'm not the one who needs fixing, I insist to Dr. Winters, a woman with kind eyes and persistent questions. My daughter is the one who cut me off for no reason. No reason at all, she asks, her voice neutral. Well, she claims I've been comparing her to her cousin, but that's ridiculous. All parents use examples to motivate their children. Examples or comparisons? What's the difference, doctor? Winters tilts her head slightly. An example inspires. A comparison judges. I shift uncomfortably in my seat. I was just trying to push her to excel. Tell me about your relationship with your own mother, she says, changing directions so abruptly that I'm momentarily disoriented. My mother, what does she have to do with this? Quite often, our parenting styles are influenced by how we were parented. What was your mother like? I hesitate, unprepared for this line of questioning. She was strict, traditional. She and my father emigrated from Japan just before I was born. They sacrificed everything so my sister and I could have opportunities they never had. And how did they respond when you took advantage of those opportunities? A memory surfaces, unbidden, my mother's voice cold with disappointment. Your sister got straight A's again. Why can't you be more like her? The familiar ache of never quite measuring up. They had high standards, I say carefully. And did you meet those standards? I tried. I was valedictorian, went to an excellent university, had a successful career in finance before transitioning to the nonprofit world. And was that enough for them? I look down at my hands, noticing how tightly I'm gripping my purse. No, I admit finally. It was never enough. Doctor, Winters lets the silence stretch between us. I fight the urge to fill it with justifications or deflections. How did that make you feel? She asks finally. Like a failure, I whisper, the admission painful even after all these years. Like no matter what I achieved, I would always disappoint them. And how do you think Ariel feels when you compare her to Eliza? The question lands like a physical blow. I sit in stunned silence as decades of buried pain rise to the surface, along with the sickening realization that I've been inflicting that same pain on my own daughter. I've become the very thing I most feared, my mother. I leave Dr. Winter's office feeling shaken to my core. The drive home is a blur, my mind replaying not just my conversation with the therapist, but decades of interactions with my daughter. How many times had I dismissed her achievements? How many times had I made her feel that who she was wasn't enough? The parallel between my mother's treatment of me and my treatment of Ariel is too painful to ignore. At home, I sit at my desk, surrounded by the carefully curated art pieces that decorate my study. The pristine environment that usually brings me comfort now feels cold, sterile. I pull out a sheet of paper and begin to write, then crumple it and start again. And again. The wastebasket fills with discarded attempts, each one lacking the honesty I now realize is necessary. After my 6th attempt, I finally begin writing from my heart. Dear Ariel, I'm writing not to defend myself, but to tell you I finally understand. For years, I've been comparing you to Eliza, just as my mother compared me to your aunt. I thought I was motivating you, but I was actually punishing you for not fulfilling my narrow definition of success, a definition I absorbed from my own mother's disapproval. The truth is, I've been terrified of you failing because it would feel like my failure. But you haven't failed. You've succeeded brilliantly on your own terms, and I was too blind to see it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see you now, really see you, and I'm genuinely proud of the woman you've become. Not because of what you've achieved professionally, though that is remarkable, but because of who you are, your kindness, your determination, your integrity. All qualities I was too busy comparing to notice. If you're willing, I'd like the chance to know the woman you've become without expectations or comparisons. But I understand if that's not possible. With love and regret, Mom. I read the letter over several times, fighting the urge to edit it into something more polished but less honest. Finally, I place it in an envelope, write Ariel's name on it, and drive to her apartment building. This time I don't go up. Instead, I leave the letter with the concierge who promises to deliver it to apartment 314. Weeks pass without response. I try not to count the days, but each morning I check my phone, hoping for a text or missed call. Nothing. Nikhil notices my subdued mood but says little. He continues his lunches with Ariel, returning with carefully neutral expressions when I ask how she's doing. Fine, he'll say. Busy with work. Did she mention my letter? No. Then, seeing my expression fall, he adds, but that doesn't mean she didn't read it. I nod and change the subject, unwilling to admit how much her silence hurts. The irony isn't lost on me how desperate I am now for any communication from the daughter whose achievements I once dismissed so casually. One morning, as I'm preparing for a board meeting, my phone chimes with a text notification. I nearly drop it in my haste to check the screen. The message is brief. Coffee at Riverside Cafe, Saturday, 10 a.m. It's from Ariel. My hands shake as I type back, I'll be there, thank you. I resist the urge to add more, to push for reassurance that this is a step toward reconciliation. I've done enough pushing. I arrive at the cafe 30 minutes early on Saturday, choosing a quiet table in the corner where we'll have some privacy. I order a cappuccino that sits untouched as I watch the door. At precisely 10:00, Ariel walks in. She's cut her hair since I last saw her, the long waves now replaced by a sleek bob that frames her face. She looks confident, professional in a way that makes my heart ache with pride and regret. She spots me and walks over, her expression guarded. I stand awkwardly, unsure whether to hug her or shake her hand or simply nod. She solves the dilemma by sitting down immediately, placing her purse on the table between us like a barrier. Thank you for coming, I say, wincing at how formal I sound. Thank you for your letter, she replies after ordering a green tea. It couldn't have been easy to write. I shake my head. Not as hard as it should have been. I should have realized years ago what I was doing to you. The silence stretches between us until her tea arrives. She wraps her hands around the mug, staring into it as if it might contain answers. I spent years trying to make you proud, she says finally. Every achievement, every award, every promotion, I'd think, this will be enough. This will finally make her see me. But nothing ever was. Her words cut deeper than any accusation could. I was proud of you, I say quietly. I just didn't know how to show it without pushing you for more. It's how I was raised. I know Dad told me about Grandma, how hard she was on you. She takes a sip of her tea. But knowing why you did it doesn't make it hurt any less. No, I imagine it doesn't. I make myself meet her eyes. I'm sorry, Ariel, not just for comparing you to Eliza, but for making you feel that who you are wasn't enough. Because you are enough, more than enough. You always have been. She blinks rapidly, looking away. It's going to take time for me to believe that, to trust that you won't slip back into old patterns the next time Eliza gets a promotion or buys a house or whatever. I understand. I hesitate, then add, I've been seeing a therapist. It's helping me recognize those patterns so I can break them. Surprise flickers across her face. You're seeing a therapist? You always said therapy was for people who couldn't solve their own problems. I was wrong about that too. I offer a small smile. Turns out I couldn't solve this one on my own. Something shifts in her expression, a softening around the eyes. So what now? That's up to you. I'd like to be part of your life again, but I understand if you need more time or if there are boundaries you want to set. She considers this, stirring her tea thoughtfully. I think we could start with text. Not every day, just, occasionally. See how that goes. It's less than I'd hoped for, but more than I deserve. I'd like that. She nods, then glances at her watch. I should go. I have a meeting across town. Of course. I resist the urge to ask about the meeting, to inquire about her work in a way that might seem like I'm evaluating it. Instead, I simply say, "Thank you for giving me this chance." She stands, gathering her purse. "I'm not promising anything, Mom, but the letter was a start." I watch her leave, feeling a mixture of loss and hope. It's not a reconciliation, not yet, but it's a beginning. True to her word, Ariel begins texting occasionally. Brief updates about her work or questions about a recipe she's trying. I respond with careful enthusiasm, conscious of not overstepping or pressuring her. I find articles about tech innovations and send them without commentary, just links with brief notes like, "Thought this might interest you," or "Reminded me of your project." She responds with equally brief thanks, but responds nonetheless. One evening, scrolling through news about AI advancements, I find myself genuinely curious about her perspective. Without overthinking it, I text, "Just read about the new neural network models in healthcare. Is this similar to what your team is working on?" Her response comes an hour later, longer and more detailed than usual, explaining the differences between the public model and her company's approach. I read it several times, realizing with a pang how little I've understood about her work all these years. "That sounds fascinating," I reply. "Much more complex than I realized." "It is," she texts back. "There's a lot more to playing with computers than most people think." The gentle rebuke makes me wince, but it's fair. "I'd like to understand it better," I offer. "Maybe someday I'll show you." Those 5 words feel like more progress than all our previous exchanges combined. Our text conversations gradually become more frequent, though still carefully neutral. I learn to ask questions rather than make statements, to show interest without judgment. It's a delicate dance, relearning how to communicate with my own daughter, but each small exchange builds something fragile and new between us. 4 months after our coffee meeting, I receive a text that makes my heart race. "My company is having a product launch next month. There's a reception afterward. Would you like to come?" Dad's already said yes. I have to read it 3 times to believe it. An invitation, not an obligation. A choice being offered rather than a comparison being made. I type back immediately, "I would love to. Thank you for inviting me." The evening of the launch, I dress with unusual indecision, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a simple navy dress that feels elegant without being ostentatious. I meet Nick Hill in the foyer, noticing how his expression softens when he sees me. "You look nice," he says, the first genuine compliment he's given me in months. "Thank you." I fidget with my jade pendant. "I'm nervous." "I know." He offers his arm as we walk to the car. "Just remember why we're going, Valencia. This isn't about us, it's about supporting Ariel." I nod, grateful for the reminder. I'm proud of her, really proud, without conditions or comparisons. Then make sure she knows that. His voice is gentle but firm. The product launch is held in a sleek downtown venue filled with tech industry professionals and healthcare representatives. Ariel stands at the front of the room, confident and articulate as she presents the AI diagnostic system her team has developed. I watch her handle complex questions with ease, explaining technical concepts in ways that make them accessible without oversimplifying. Pride swells within me, pure and uncomplicated for perhaps the first time. This is my daughter, brilliant and accomplished in a field I barely understand. Not despite taking a different path than I envisioned, but because she followed her own passions. After the presentation, the room shifts to a reception format. I hang back, unsure of my place in this world of Ariel's. Nikhil has already been swallowed by the crowd, greeted by people who clearly know him from previous events. I find a quiet spot near a window, watching Ariel move through the room with easy confidence. "You must be Ariel's mother," a voice says beside me. I turn to find a woman about my age holding a glass of wine. "I'm Dr. Matthews, chair of neurology at University Hospital. We're implementing your daughter's system in our department next month." "It's nice to meet you," I say automatically. "Your daughter is brilliant," she continues. "We wouldn't have made it this far without her leadership." The diagnostic accuracy rates her team has achieved are unprecedented. I feel a strange mixture of pride and shame, pride in Ariel's accomplishments and shame that I'm learning about them from a stranger. Yes, she is brilliant, I agree. I'm very proud of her. You should be. In 20 years of medicine, I've rarely seen technology with this much potential to change patient outcomes. Before I can respond, Ariel appears at my side looking slightly concerned. I see you've met Dr. Matthews, she says, her eyes moving between us. Yes, she was just telling me about implementing your system at University Hospital. It sounds remarkable. Ariel's expression relaxes slightly. We're excited about the partnership. She turns to Dr. Matthews. Would you mind if I borrowed my mother for a moment? There are some people I'd like her to meet. Of course not. Lovely meeting you, Mrs. Kimura Patel. As Dr. Matthews moves away, Ariel leads me through the crowd. You don't have to introduce me to everyone, I tell her quietly. I'm happy just observing. She glances at me, surprised. I thought you'd want to meet the team. I do if you want me to, but this is your night. I don't want to intrude. Something shifts in her expression, a softening I haven't seen in years. It's not an intrusion, Mom. I invited you. The evening continues with introductions to Ariel's colleagues, all of whom speak highly of her leadership and vision. I listen more than I speak, absorbing this world she's created for herself, so different from anything I could have imagined for her and yet so perfectly suited to her strengths. As the event winds down, Ariel finds me again. What did you think? There's a vulnerability in her question that breaks my heart. I think you're extraordinary, I say simply. What you've built here, what you've accomplished, it's remarkable. Not because it matches some external standard of success, but because it's meaningful work that you're brilliant at. Her eyes widen slightly as if she's hearing something unexpected. Thank you, she says after a moment. That means a lot. On the drive home, Nikhil reaches over and takes my hand. You did well tonight. I didn't do anything, I reply. I just showed up. Sometimes that's enough. He squeezes my hand. It's a start. It is a start. Over the next months, our text exchanges grow more frequent, more natural. I send her articles about tech innovations not to test or evaluate her, but because I'm genuinely interested in her perspective. She begins to share more about her work, explaining concepts I don't fully understand but am eager to learn. 6 months after the product launch, I receive another text that makes my heart skip. I just bought a house. Would you and Dad like to come for dinner next weekend? Nothing fancy, just takeout, but I'd like to show you the place. An invitation to her home, a willingness to let me back into her private space. It feels monumental. I type back, we'd love to, just tell us when and what we can bring. The house is a modest but charming craftsman in a quiet neighborhood. As Ariel gives us the tour, I notice the personal touches that make it uniquely hers. The bookshelves filled with technical manuals and science fiction novels, the small home office set up with multiple monitors, the kitchen herbs growing in neat planters. It's lovely, I tell her sincerely. It suits you perfectly. Thanks. She seems pleased by the comment. It needs some work, but I fell in love with the original woodwork. During dinner, the conversation flows more easily than it has in years. We talk about her projects, about Nikhil's hospital, about my work at the foundation. No comparisons are made, no achievements measured against external standards. It's just family sharing their lives. As Ariel shows us into the living room after dinner, I notice a framed article on the wall. It's from a tech industry publication, featuring her company's healthcare AI system and its implementation in several major hospitals. I move closer to read it, noticing Ariel watching me cautiously. I could comment on the prestigious publication. I could mention that Eliza was featured in a legal journal last year. I could find some way to qualify or diminish this achievement. Instead, I say simply, I'm so proud of what you've built, Ariel. Not because it meets some arbitrary standard, but because it's meaningful work that you love. Something shifts in her expression, a guard lowering, a wound beginning to heal. Thank you, Mom, she says quietly. That means a lot coming from you. Later, as the evening winds down, we sit on Ariel's back porch. The night is cool but not cold, the garden lights casting a gentle glow over the small space. Nikhil has gone inside to take a call from the hospital, leaving us alone. I'm working on a new project, Ariel says, breaking the comfortable silence. An extension of our diagnostic system that could help detect early signs of neurological disorders before clinical symptoms appear. That sounds incredible, I say and mean it. How would it work? As she explains, her hands move animatedly, her eyes bright with excitement. The technical details go over my head, but I listen intently, asking questions when I can follow and simply appreciating her passion when I can't. In this moment, I'm not evaluating or comparing or measuring her against some ideal. I'm simply present with my daughter, finally seeing her for who she is rather than who I thought she should be. The relationship remains fragile, a delicate new growth after years of damage. But for the first time in a very long time, there is hope of something authentic growing in the space between us. I mark the 1-year anniversary of our reconnection quietly, with a small note in my calendar and a moment of gratitude. The journey from estrangement to this careful rapprochement has been fragile, a delicate rebuilding of trust through texts, occasional dinners, and a mutual willingness to try again. I've learned to accept invitations without expectations, to listen more than I speak, and to recognize Ariel's successes on her terms rather than mine. Today, I'm meeting her for lunch near her office, a monthly tradition we've established over the past few months. As I park my car in the downtown garage, I feel the familiar flutter of anticipation and anxiety. Even after a year, I still second-guess myself, still worry about saying the wrong thing, making the wrong comparison, falling back into old patterns. The restaurant is busy with the lunch crowd when I arrive. Ariel is already seated at a corner table, focused on her phone. She looks up as I approach, offering a small smile. "Mom, hi." "Hi," I reply, settling into the chair across from her. "Sorry if I'm late." "You're not, I was early." She puts her phone away. "I just got some news I wanted to share with you in person." I feel a jolt of something that might be anticipation or might be fear. Old habits die hard, and my first instinct is still to brace myself, to prepare for news I'll need to evaluate and measure. I breathe through the impulse and simply ask, "What kind of news?" Ariel looks both excited and nervous. The healthcare AI system we developed is being adopted by the National Hospital Network. It's going to be implemented in over 200 hospitals across the country. "Ariel, that's wonderful," I say, meaning it. "That will help so many people." "It will," she agrees, her eyes bright. "We've been working toward this for years. The preliminary results suggest it could improve early diagnosis rates for certain conditions by up to 40%. I can't even imagine what that means in terms of lives affected," I say. "You must be incredibly proud." "I am, my team has worked so hard." She hesitates, then adds, "There's going to be a formal announcement next month with a reception afterward. I'd like you and Dad to come if you're available." "We'd be honored," I tell her. "Just let us know when and where." The waiter arrives to take our orders, giving me a moment to process what's happening. A year ago, Ariel wouldn't even answer my texts. Now she's inviting me to share in her professional triumph, introducing me to her colleagues, welcoming me into her world. The progress feels significant, hard-earned. After the waiter leaves, Ariel says, "So, how's everything at the foundation?" It's a polite question, the kind anyone might ask, but it represents progress too. Our early conversations after reconnecting were stilted, filled with careful small talk and deliberate avoidance of potential triggers. We're still careful with each other, but there's an ease beginning to develop, a willingness to engage beyond the surface. "It's going well," I tell her. "We just received a grant to expand our youth arts program into more underserved schools." I catch myself before adding that the grant is smaller than what Eliza's law firm donated to a similar program last year. The comparison rises automatically to my lips, but I've learned to recognize it and stop it before it escapes. "That's great," Ariel says. "I always loved those programs when I was in school. They're how I first got interested in design thinking." I blink in surprise. "I didn't know that." Yeah, that mixed media workshop in ninth grade, the one where we had to create functional art, that was when I started thinking about how design and function work together. She smiles slightly. Ironic, right? One of your programs helped set me on the path to tech instead of law. There's no accusation in her tone, just gentle amusement. Still, I feel a pang of regret for all the years I failed to see the connections, to understand my daughter's mind and choices. Not ironic, I say carefully. Just proof that we never really know where inspiration will come from. I hesitate, then add, I wish I'd paid more attention then. I might have understood your choices better. Ariel's expression softens slightly. We can't change the past, Mom, but we're here now, right? We are, I agree, feeling a rush of gratitude for this second chance. Our lunch continues with easier conversation. Ariel tells me about a weekend hiking trip she's planning with friends. I share stories about the latest Foundation board drama. We discuss a book we've both read recently, finding unexpected common ground in our interpretations. It feels almost normal, like the relationship we might have had all along if I hadn't spent so many years pushing her away with my comparisons and disappointment. As we're finishing our meal, Ariel's phone chimes with an incoming call. She glances at it, then back at me. I should take this, it's work. Of course, I tell her. She steps away from the table, leaving me to reflect on how far we've come. A year ago, I was sending desperate unanswered texts to a daughter who lived just 20 minutes away, but might as well have been on another continent. Now we're having lunch together, sharing news and plans, rebuilding a relationship I nearly destroyed with my own insecurities and rigid expectations. When Ariel returns to the table, her expression is apologetic. I'm sorry, but I need to get back to the office. Something's come up with the system rollout. Don't apologize, I tell her. Go do what you need to do, this was lovely. She pauses, seeming to consider something. The announcement ceremony next month, it's going to be covered by some tech industry media. There might be photos, interviews. That's wonderful exposure for your company, I say, unsure why she's mentioning this with such hesitation. It is, but if we're photographed together, if I introduce you as my mother, people might look you up, connect us publicly. She meets my eyes directly. I wanted to make sure you're comfortable with that. The implication hits me with unexpected force. She's asking if I'm comfortable being publicly associated with her career, her choices, her path so different from what I once envisioned for her. She's asking if I'm truly proud of her, not just in private moments but in the public eye. Ariel, I say, reaching across the table to touch her hand briefly, I would be honored to be identified as your mother. What you've accomplished is extraordinary and I am so proud of you. Not despite your chosen field but because of what you've done with it. Something shifts in her expression, a lingering doubt finally laid to rest. Thank you, she says simply. That means a lot. We part ways outside the restaurant, our goodbye a brief hug, still slightly awkward but genuine. As I watch her walk back toward her office building, I'm struck by how much has changed and how much work still lies ahead. Rebuilding trust is not a single conversation or apology, but 1,000 small moments of choosing differently, of seeing clearly, of valuing the person in front of you rather than the projection you created. The day of the National Hospital Network announcement arrives with perfect early autumn weather. Nikhil and I arrive at the downtown hotel where the ceremony will be held, joining a crowd of healthcare professionals, tech industry representatives, and media. The ballroom is elegant yet modern, with displays demonstrating the AI diagnostic system positioned around the periphery. I spot Ariel near the stage, deep in conversation with several people in business attire. She looks polished and professional in a tailored suit, her expression animated as she explains something to the group. Nikhil notices her at the same time, giving my hand a quick squeeze. Our daughter, he says quietly, pride evident in his voice. Yes, I agree, the simple affirmation containing multitudes. We find seats near the front as the ceremony begins. Several speakers take the stage, including the CEO of the hospital network and various medical directors. They speak of improved patient outcomes, earlier interventions, lives potentially saved. Then Ariel is introduced as the lead developer and visionary behind the system. She takes the podium with confidence, addressing the audience with clarity and passion. I listen, truly listen, to her explanation of how the system works, how it was developed, and what it means for healthcare. Though some of the technical details escape me, I understand the core of what she's created. A tool that helps doctors identify patterns they might otherwise miss, leading to earlier diagnosis and treatment. We didn't develop this technology to replace human judgment, she says toward the end of her presentation, but to enhance it. To give medical professionals another tool in their diagnostic arsenal. The algorithm learns from every case, improving its accuracy over time, but the final decisions will always rest with the healthcare providers who know their patients best. The audience responds with enthusiastic applause. I find myself clapping until my hands hurt, blinking back unexpected tears. This is my daughter, brilliant and accomplished, using her talents to make a tangible difference in the world. Not the path I would have chosen for her, but the perfect path for who she is. After the formal presentation, the event transitions to a reception. Nikhil is immediately engaged in conversation with several physician colleagues who recognize him. I hang back slightly, still sometimes uncertain of my place in Ariel's professional world. But then she appears at my side, smiling. "What did you think?" she asks. "It was remarkable," I tell her honestly. "Not just the technology, though that's impressive, but the way you presented it. You made complex concepts accessible without oversimplifying them. That's a rare skill." She looks pleased by the specific nature of the compliment. "Thanks, it's something I've worked on. Technical people often struggle to communicate with non-technical audiences." "Well, you've mastered it." I hesitate, then add, "Would you introduce me to some of your team? I'd like to meet the people you work with." Something warm flickers in her eyes. "I'd like that." For the next hour, Ariel guides me through the crowd, introducing me to colleagues and collaborators. "This is my mother, Valencia," she says each time, without qualification or explanation. Just a simple statement of fact that feels like a gift after years of estrangement. Her team members speak of her with obvious respect and affection. One young developer tells me how Ariel mentored him when he first joined the company. A project manager describes her ability to maintain the big picture vision while attending to crucial details. A physician consultant praises her willingness to listen to medical perspectives and adapt the technology accordingly. With each conversation, I learn more about my daughter, not as I imagined her to be, but as she actually is. Not a failed lawyer, but a successful tech innovator. Not a disappointment, but an inspiration to her colleagues. Not a lesser version of her cousin, but a unique and valuable person in her own right. Later, as the reception winds down, Ariel joins Nikhil and me near one of the demonstration stations. "There's a smaller dinner for key team members and executives afterward," she says. "Would you like to join us?" "Are you sure?" I ask. "We don't want to intrude on your professional celebration." "You wouldn't be intruding," she says firmly. "I want you there, both of you." The dinner is held in a private room at an upscale restaurant nearby. The conversation flows easily, mixing technical discussions with personal anecdotes and industry gossip. I mostly listen, fascinated by this glimpse into Ariel's world, the relationships and dynamics I knew nothing about during our years of estrangement. At one point, the hospital network CEO raises a toast to Ariel and her team. "To innovation that saves lives," he says, lifting his glass. "And to the visionaries who make it possible." Everyone drinks to the toast, and I catch Ariel's eye across the table. She gives me a small, private smile that contains a world of meaning. We're not fully healed, not yet. The damage of years of comparison and dismissal can't be undone in a single year of cautious reconnection. But we're on the path now, moving forward together rather than further apart. After dinner, as we're saying our goodbyes, Ariel surprises me with a question. "I'm house sitting for a friend next weekend, taking care of their dog. Their place is up near Lakeside. I was thinking of making a day of it, maybe hiking in the morning and then grilling in the afternoon. Would you and Dad like to join me?" The invitation is casual but significant. Not a formal dinner or professional event, but a day together, just family. "We'd love to," I tell her, careful not to overreact, to treat it as the normal invitation it would be in a healthy mother-daughter relationship. Great, she says, I'll text you the details. As Nikhil and I drive home, I'm quiet, processing the evening. You're doing well with her, he says, breaking the silence. I'm proud of you, Valencia. The words catch me off guard. I'm just trying not to make the same mistakes again. That's all any of us can do, he says simply. Learn and try to do better. I nod, watching the city lights blur past the car window. The journey from estrangement to reconciliation isn't linear. There are still moments when I catch myself slipping into old patterns, when a comparison rises to my lips, when I measure Ariel's choices against someone else's. But I'm learning to recognize those moments, to pause and choose differently. At home, preparing for bed, I find myself thinking about the scene in the ballroom earlier, Ariel confident and poised at the podium, explaining the technology she helped create. I think about her introducing me to her colleagues without qualification or explanation, simply as her mother. I think about the casual invitation to spend a day together, doing nothing more significant than hiking and grilling, small steps, all of them, but steps in the right direction, from comparison to acceptance, from disappointment to pride, from estrangement to connection. Not perfect, not complete, but possible. I reach for my phone and send a quick text before turning out the light. I was so proud to be your mother today. Thank you for including us. Her reply comes a few minutes later. Thank you for being there. It meant a lot to have you both with me. Good night, Mom. Tears spring to my eyes at the simple message, at the casual use of mom at the end. Such a small thing, but it feels monumental after years of silence. I set the phone aside and close my eyes, grateful for second chances and the opportunity to finally see my daughter clearly, not as a reflection of my expectations, but as the remarkable woman she's become. The weekend at Lakeside marks a turning point. The day unfolds with an easy rhythm that would have been unimaginable 2 years ago. Ariel meets us at the trailhead, her friend's golden retriever bounding eagerly at her side. We hike through dappled woods, conversation flowing naturally between topics. I notice how Nikhil and Ariel share a shorthand developed during their secret lunches during our estrangement, inside jokes and references I'm not part of. Rather than feeling excluded, I'm grateful they maintained that connection when I couldn't. At one point, the trail opens to a spectacular view of the lake. It's beautiful, I say, genuinely moved by the expanse of blue water reflecting the clear sky. I thought you'd like it, Ariel replies. Remember those camping trips we used to take when I was little, before everything got so complicated? The memory catches me by surprise. Those early years when Ariel was young, before the constant comparisons began, when I was still capable of simply enjoying my daughter's company without measuring it against some external standard. I do remember, I say softly. You used to collect stones from every lake we visited. She smiles. I still have some of them. The special ones anyway. After the hike, we return to her friend's lakeside cabin. Ariel grills vegetables and fish while Nikhil and I set up the deck table. The domesticity of the scene strikes me, how ordinary it would appear to an outsider. Just a family sharing a meal, enjoying each other's company. No one would guess the years of pain and estrangement that preceded this moment, or how precious this ordinary afternoon feels as a result. Over lunch, Ariel mentions a conference she's been invited to speak at in Paris. It's still 6 months away, but I'm already nervous. My French is so rusty. You'll be wonderful, I tell her, then hesitate before adding, if you'd like to practice beforehand, my French is still decent, I could help. She considers this, head tilted slightly. That might be good actually, thanks. Such a small exchange but significant, an offer of help accepted without suspicion. A willingness to collaborate rather than compete. Small steps toward a new kind of relationship. As summer turns to fall, our reconnection deepens. Weekly texts become regular phone calls. Monthly lunches expand to include occasional dinners, movies, even a foundation gala where Ariel attends as my guest. Each interaction builds upon the last, establishing new patterns to replace the destructive ones of the past. I still make mistakes. During one phone call, I catch myself beginning to compare Ariel's recent promotion to Eliza's new partnership announcement. I stop mid-sentence, recognizing the familiar pattern emerging. I'm sorry, I say immediately. That was exactly the kind of comparison I'm trying not to make anymore. I noticed, Ariel says after a moment. But I also noticed you caught yourself. That matters. Her willingness to acknowledge my efforts without dismissing my slip gives me hope. We're both learning, both trying. The path forward isn't perfect, but it's real. One evening in late October, Ariel calls unexpectedly. Mom. Are you busy right now? Not at all, I reply, setting aside the foundation report I've been reviewing. Is everything okay? Yes, everything's fine. I just wanted to ask you something. She pauses. My company's holiday party is coming up in December. I was wondering if you and Dad would like to join me this year. The invitation isn't extraordinary on its face. Parents often attend work functions with their adult children, but for us, it represents another threshold crossed. Last year, Nikhil attended the holiday party alone while I sat at home, still uninvited into Ariel's professional world. We'd love to, I tell her, keeping my voice steady despite the emotion rising in my chest. Great. It's black tie at the Grand Hotel downtown. I'll send you the details. After we hang up, I sit quietly in my study, processing the significance of this latest invitation. 2 years ago, my daughter wouldn't answer my calls. Now she's including me in celebrations, introducing me to colleagues, weaving me back into the fabric of her life. The holiday party is elegant, the Grand Hotel's ballroom transformed with subtle seasonal decorations and soft lighting. Ariel meets us in the lobby, stunning in a deep blue gown that brings out her eyes. You look beautiful, I tell her, and mean it without qualification or comparison. The evening unfolds with a familiar pattern now, Ariel introducing us to colleagues who know Nikhil from previous events, but are meeting me for the first time. I'm careful to listen more than I speak, to ask questions about their work rather than offering opinions or judgments. I want to understand this world my daughter has built for herself, to appreciate it on its own terms rather than measuring it against my outdated expectations. During dinner, I find myself seated next to Ariel's direct supervisor, a woman about my age named Dr. Chen. Your daughter is exceptional, she tells me over the appetizer course. We nearly lost her to a competitor last year, I had to fight to keep her. This is news to me. I didn't realize she was considering leaving. Dr. Chen looks surprised. Oh, I assumed you knew. It was right around the time of the National Hospital Network announcement. Several major tech firms made her offers, one of them quite substantial. But she stayed, I observe, processing this new information. Yes, she said the work we're doing matters more than a bigger paycheck. That's rare in this industry, especially for someone with her talents. Dr. Chen smiles. You must be very proud of her. I am, I say simply. More than I can express. Later, I watch Ariel across the room, engaged in animated conversation with a group of colleagues. She's in her element here, respected and valued for exactly who she is. I think about what Dr. Chen revealed, that Ariel chose meaningful work over higher compensation, values over prestige. It's a choice I wouldn't have understood 2 years ago, when my definition of success was so narrow, so rigid. On the drive home, I mentioned the conversation. Dr. Chen told me you had offers from other companies last year. I didn't realize. Ariel glances at me from the passenger seat, Nikhil at the wheel navigating the light midnight traffic. Yes, a few. One was pretty tempting, financially speaking. But you stayed for the work itself, I say, not a question but an observation. She nods. The healthcare applications matter to me. I didn't want to switch to consumer tech just for a bigger paycheck. I think that's admirable, I tell her, choosing purpose over prestige. She looks at me with surprise. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. The words hang between us, weighted with our history. Coming from you, the mother who once valued prestige above all else, who measured success in external validation rather than personal fulfillment. Coming from you, who thought a law degree was inherently more valuable than a computer science degree, regardless of what one did with either. I've learned a lot from you, Ariel, I say quietly. About what really matters. The weeks leading up to Christmas bring an unexpected invitation. Dad and I were thinking, Ariel says during our weekly phone call, maybe you'd like to come to my place for Christmas dinner this year? I know we usually do it at your house, but I thought it might be nice to host for a change. The tradition she's referring to predates our estrangement, Christmas dinners at our home with extended family. During the years of silence between us, the tradition continued with Ariel's conspicuous absence, her name carefully avoided in conversation. Last year, after our cautious reconnection began, she attended but seemed uncomfortable and almost guessed in what had once been her family home. I think that's a wonderful idea, I tell her. What can I bring? Just yourselves, she says. Though if you wanted to make those almond cookies you used to make when I was little, I wouldn't object. The mention of the cookies, a recipe passed down from my Japanese grandmother, touches me deeply. I'd be happy to. Christmas Eve finds me in my kitchen, carefully measuring ingredients for the almond cookies. Nikhil wanders in, eyebrows raised at the sight of flour dusting my usually immaculate countertops. I haven't seen you make those in years, he observes. Ariel requested them. I shape the dough with practiced movements that come back to me despite the long absence. Remember how she used to help when she was little, standing on a chair to reach the counter? I remember, he says, leaning against the door frame. She always ate more dough than she shaped. The shared memory warms the kitchen more than the preheating oven. For so many years, our memories of Ariel's childhood were tinged with my disappointment in the woman she was becoming, so different from what I'd envisioned. Now I can look back and see the consistency. How the curious child who loved solving puzzles naturally grew into the woman who develops complex algorithms. How her early compassion evolved into creating technology that helps diagnose illnesses earlier, potentially saving lives. Ariel's house is transformed for Christmas. A small tree in the corner of the living room decorated with an eclectic mix of ornaments. Some I recognize from her childhood, others clearly new acquisitions reflecting her adult tastes. The dining table is set with care, name cards at each place in Ariel's distinctive handwriting. This is lovely, I tell her, taking in the scene. You've created such a warm home here. Thanks, she says, seeming pleased by the specific nature of the compliment. It's still a work in progress, but it's coming together. Dinner unfolds with easy conversation, reminiscences of holidays past interspersed with discussions of current projects and future plans. I notice how Ariel has incorporated elements from our family traditions while establishing her own, the familiar alongside the new in a balance that seems to characterize our rebuilding relationship as well. After dinner, we move to the living room for coffee and the almond cookies. Ariel takes a bite and closes her eyes briefly. These taste exactly the same, like I'm 10 years old again. Some things don't need improving, I say, thinking not just of the cookies but of the unconditional love I once gave my daughter before expectations and comparisons clouded everything. That's what we're working back toward, the pure connection without the distortion of my insecurities and rigid definitions of success. I have something for you, Ariel says suddenly, setting down her coffee cup. It's not wrapped, I'm afraid. She retrieves her laptop from the study, opening it on the coffee table. Remember last year at the product launch when you said you wanted to understand my work better? I've been thinking about how to explain it in a way that makes sense to non-technical people. She turns the screen toward us, showing a simple but elegant presentation titled Healthcare AI, How It Works and Why It Matters. I developed this for potential hospital clients, but I realized it might help you understand what I do day to day. She clicks through a few slides, each one breaking down complex concepts into accessible visualizations and clear language. I'm touched by the gesture, by her desire to bridge the gap between her world and mine. This is wonderful, Ariel. Thank you for sharing it with me. She shrugs slightly, but I can tell the approval means something to her. I thought it might help. It does, I assure her, though I'm still not sure I'll ever fully grasp the technical details. That's okay, she says with a small smile. You don't need to understand every component of something to appreciate its value. The words land with significance beyond their surface meaning. No, I don't need to understand every aspect of my daughter's chosen path to recognize its worth, to be proud of what she's accomplished, to love her for exactly who she is rather than who I once thought she should be. As the evening winds down, Nikhil excuses himself to take a call from a colleague, leaving Ariel and me alone in the living room. We sit in comfortable silence for a moment, the Christmas tree lights casting a warm glow over the space. This has been lovely, I say. Thank you for hosting us. Thanks for coming. She hesitates, then adds, It's been a good year, hasn't it, for us, I mean? It has, I agree. Better than I dared hope for. She twists her coffee cup slightly, a gesture reminiscent of her teenage years when approaching a difficult subject. I've been thinking a lot about where we started versus where we are now, the work we've both put in to rebuild things. As have I tell her. I'm grateful every day for this second chance. Me too. She meets my eyes directly. I want you to know that I see how hard you're trying, Mom, how much you've changed. It matters to me. The words settle around my heart like a balm. Thank you for saying that, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to show you. We still have work to do, she acknowledges. There are still moments when I brace myself for a comparison that doesn't come, when I catch myself preparing defenses I no longer need. And there are still moments when I have to consciously stop myself from making those comparisons, I admit. Old habits die hard, but they do die eventually, she says. Or at least they can change. We're interrupted by Nikhil's return, the moment of vulnerability gently closed but not forgotten. As we prepare to leave, gathering coats and exchanging hugs, I feel a sense of peace that's been absent for too many years, replaced by anxiety and regret and desperate hopes for reconciliation. Outside, the night is clear and cold, stars visible despite the city lights. I pause on Ariel's porch, looking up at the winter sky. It's beautiful tonight. Ariel steps out beside me, following my gaze upward. It is. We stand there for a moment, side by side, our breath visible in the cold air. I'm so proud of what you've built, I tell her, gesturing toward her home. Not just your career, though that's remarkable, but this life you've created for yourself, it's beautiful. Something shifts in her expression, a guard lowering completely for perhaps the first time since our estrangement began. Thank you, she says quietly. That means everything. As Nikhil and I drive home through the quiet streets, I reflect on the journey we've traveled these past 2 years. From estrangement to cautious reconnection, from stilted conversations to genuine engagement, from comparison to acceptance. It hasn't been easy or straightforward. There have been setbacks along the way, moments when old patterns threatened to reassert themselves, when the damage of years of comparing and dismissing seemed too extensive to repair. But tonight felt like confirmation that the work has been worthwhile, that the careful rebuilding of trust and understanding is creating something genuine and precious. Not a perfect relationship, perhaps, but an authentic one based on seeing each other clearly and valuing each other truly, without the distorting lens of comparison or external standards of success. At home, preparing for bed, I think about what Ariel said about habits changing rather than dying completely. She's right, of course. I still catch myself sometimes, the old comparisons rising automatically to my lips. But now I recognize them for what they are, reflections of my own insecurities rather than valid assessments of my daughter's worth. And with that recognition comes the power to choose differently, to see Ariel clearly for who she is rather than measuring her against who I thought she should be. On the bedside table, my phone lights up with a text notification. It's from Ariel. Thank you for tonight. And for the cookies. They were perfect. Such a simple message, but 2 years ago it would have been unimaginable. I respond, Thank you for having us. Your home is as wonderful as you are. I set the phone aside and turn out the light, grateful for second chances and the opportunity to finally be the mother Ariel deserves, one who sees her clearly and loves her completely, without conditions or comparisons. The journey isn't over, the work of rebuilding trust never really finished, but we're on the path now, moving forward together rather than further apart. And that, I realize, is the greatest success of all.